So today we're talking about synthesizers and how synthesizers relate to concrete.
Not at all.
No, it's a day where I get we ask somebody in our company who's an expert in a certain niche field, and Whitney is an expert in recycled concrete, aggregate concrete. She's written a number of papers,
Sure.
presented to a lot of committees, a lot of entities on how to use recycled concrete aggregate, and then she's also worked with entities on quality assurance, quality
Sure.
control programs, as well as how to use the RCA, recycled concrete aggregate, in concrete. So Whitney, you have been throughout the critical path of taking old concrete and turning it into the new concrete.
Sure.
It's not pervious concrete. It's not that
No,
bad.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
Actually, I really like RCA.
But it's not that difficult to make once you get into.
Once you know how to do it.
Right. So my question for you today is, what do you see as the three biggest problems for getting the industry to adopt recycled concrete aggregate concrete?
That's a great question. I think the first one is the level of organization of the slabs that they are trying to use and the pavements. I think that's a huge piece of it. There's so many steps, but one of the first big things that you need to really implement is a solid stockpile management system.
QA/QC.
QA/QC, that's the first part of QA/QC. You've got to be able to evaluate the different pavements that you have. You need to organize them, know which pavements, suffered from different types of attacks. So there's testing you have to do before you even try to start using it for RCA.
Which is something that you would normally do for virgin or natural aggregate.
And we brought it up in one of the other videos. I think one of the biggest things is, and this is another one of the issues, is that, when you buy virgin aggregate, the aggregate companies do all the background work. So you're buying a finished product. You go to the store, you buy milk. But if you have a cow, there's a lot more work that goes into getting that milk and having it ready to drink.
Totally.
So it's kind of the same thing with RCA. There's a process. You've got to do the testing of the pavements. You've got to do the testing of the aggregate. You need to know your absorption.
Cleaning.
Yeah, it's a whole process.
Right.
And so we're expecting, or whoever it is expecting these concrete contractors and ready-mix folks to know the process of preparing aggregate, and they don't, and that's a huge hurdle.
That assumes that they're the ones who are making the RCA.
Right. And in a lot of cases these days it is, because they don't have an aggregate company or a company who does RCA doing it. There's
Sure.
a handful of places that do,
Right.
but right now it's often okay, we have these pavements here. A lot of airports are doing it. We have these pavements, let's reclaim them.
Right.
And so it's whoever is pouring the concrete that's got to figure out how to do it.
And I would say that it can be more than just pavements.
Sure. It can.
It's any type of concrete that's
Right.
recycled in mass, and we can
Right, but
reclaim
pavement
it.
seems to be one of the kind of primary ones. And then I think the third one is recognizing that absorption is a lot different than regular concrete or regular aggregate, and it's taking that into account and figuring out how to make that an opportunity versus an obstacle, or at the very least addressing that and figuring out how to take that into account and dial it in.
Oh, that makes perfect sense, and I think there's a flexibility that the industry is not used to, that they need to
absolutely.
have, especially in the batching. The greatest thing about these batching computers now is you can actually sequence anything.
Right.
And with the method that we talked about, the method that you wrote about,
Right.
Taking that obstacle, that high absorption, and turning it to an opportunity is not a difficult.
It's just recognizing what it is and figuring out how to approach it.
And
that's huge. That's a lot more than adjust.
Right.
But
So what were, just to recap, the first one,
was the stockpile management.
stockpile management. Second one,
Quality
management,
the quality management, and doing the
Test.
testing and all that for your aggregate.
and I think that's the hardest one,
It is.
creating a realistic
Right.
quality management program that identifies, hey, is this nasty aggregate, or do I have to use this as CCA,
Right.
not RCA,
Right.
because it doesn't meet
The
a certain
requirements
quality.
for it, correct.
Because if you put garbage in,
You're going to get garbage out, and then those pavements that you had to rip and replace early are going to have to be
Totally.
ripped and replaced early again.
and then the third piece of it was
The absorption.
the absorption.
People being afraid and trying to dial that in and figure that out.
I would add one more thing.
Sure.
Cost.
Oh, sure.
We did-
There are times when they can save money, but there's times when it actually costs more because of processing. So it's, again, figuring that out, dialing it in, figuring out the most cost-effective way to go all the way around.
Sure.
Are you spending less, but then you've got all these people that you've hired to deal with it, and then how much are you really spending in the
Or
long run?
do you even have a choice? I mean, if you don't have these supplementary materials to take care of a deleterious mechanism that's
Right.
coming from the rock,
Right. How
you
do
might have to.
Right.
So thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate that. I mean, that was a
Thank you.
great discussion and it brought up some really amazing points. And if you have any questions on RCA,
Yeah.
we'll put some of our articles
Sure.
in the comments section below. Thanks, Julie. Let us know what questions and concerns you
Absolutely.
have. Go Concrete!
Beat asphalt.